What is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another market update. Hope everybody had a lovely night's sleep and is about to have a great day. All right, with that being said, let's dive into TA. We're going to make this a quick 10-minute video here. I'm just going to say my apologies for not putting out a video last night. I personally wanted to see how the market was going to react to the overnight news. I now see how the market was gonna react. Okay, they sent it way further down, and now we have something further to go off of. So I thought it beneficial to just wait it out. All right, but I am going to say right here, I think we have further downside incoming. I don't think they're just gonna immediately buy this thing up, and if we do fill this gap here today at 530.84 over here on the Qs, I think we're probably gonna see it sell. All right, so I'm not saying the gap fill can't happen, but I am going to say that I think even if it does happen, I think we're going to hit it with something like this, at least come down to 521.95. We've been talking about how mean reversion is possible. It didn't look probable after yesterday's session over here. They closed out up here, as we could see. They faded overnight. Big 1.4% move as of right now, 1.4% down overnight. Big gap downs or gap ups, they're not the easiest to trade. So, honestly, guys, if you want to just sit on your hands today, I don't think that's the worst idea. Okay, if you get that gap fill, maybe you want to take longs off. That's personally going to be, my go-to today is let me just get the frack out of longs over here on this because I do think we're at least coming all the way down here. Okay, so there's going to be that. I had a little SPY hedge on. I didn't think a freaking war was going to break out overnight. No, I did not. But yeah, I had something going on. I threw $900 in it. It's not going to cover. It's not going to cover the loss on the longs. It is what it is. I just figured, yeah, if we were going to get a little bit more downside, let's try and make some money off of it, or at least not lose as much money off of it. But I no financial advice, but I do think the best course of action is, if you do see this dead cat bounce in the morning, which, a lot of the time on these gap downs, we do see a decent dead cat bounce. Maybe we get in between 527.92 and 530.84. Doesn't have to come all the way back up to the gap. We have plenty of gaps that get left behind. All right. But if it happens, it's something honestly to get out of longs on, in my personal opinion. This is definitely news that can bring us lower, and I'm going to come over here to the VIX. We talked about this over here. It was either going to reject the 21 EMA and the 200 DMA, or it was going to get above. I guess just closed. It looked like it wanted to reject. I mean, it did reject, but as we could see now, the thing is, it gapped up 20%. And, I personally, I drew these arrows out for my Discord yesterday during the stream. So far, we did it like this was your bear scenario. If we got a VIX spike, this was the bear scenario. It would start if you got over the 21 EMA. That was sitting right here. That's why the arrow starts right there. That's why we had that 1880 level in blue right there. If buyers could get above there, and I know it's not actually buyers over here, but if VIX could get and hold above there, that's when we would have this scenario on the table. And, from there, I was thinking we'd probably get up here and sell back down. Why? That's the weekly 21 EMA, so that's where I took that into consideration. And then I would imagine we'd probably see VIX cool off there as the market's got their little dead cat bounce, and then we'll see what happens here. I'm just going to say, yes, it can do this scenario. I don't think that's probable. I think with what they just did, they bounced you over here, and it's Friday now, and they're probably going to close out with a big fat green bullish candlestick over here on the VIX, and we're probably going to continue seeing indices fall the next 1 to 2 weeks. I'm going to be a buyer on it in using the July and August expirations, as far as calls go. But I don't think it is the best idea to just be buying these gap downs. I'm just saying, okay? Again, indices can get that dead cat bounce, but I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, okay? This is kind of terrible news, okay? The poly market is betting extremely high odds that there's going to be nukes involved. I'm just saying, I don't think that's going to happen. I think honestly, Donald Trump is probably going to step in and try and, control the situation before. Can he control the situation? I'm really not sure. Okay, he says we're not going to get involved in World War III. U.S. is not going to get involved. I'm just saying it's probably going to get involved if, nukes start coming into the equation. That's my guess. Okay, that is my guess. Whether the market likes it or not, it's anyone's guess. Okay. just because, oh, it's good that Donald J. Trump is going to step in and, try and save the world there. It's good. But is it good that the U.S. is now getting involved with this when there's nukes on the table? No, that brings more uncertainty onto the table. So I imagine that's going to bring, more fear over here on the VIX, more fear over there on the indices, and we can continue. But as far as technicals go, guys, if this closes out like this, I imagine we're going to keep ticking up over the coming weeks, um, at least next week. Okay, I'm going to talk about where I'm planning on buying the dip over here on the indices. I'm not going to be trading the indices over here when I buy these dips. I'm going to be, going with my tickers, with my favorite setups. So far, buyers are stepping in here. I don't think this is going to hold, guys. We have a catalyst here where we probably are going to get a full-on reset over here on the 4-hour side. We've had these bearish diverges that I've been pointing out over here. They were looking like bears got trapped again over here. You came down to demand and you bounced right back up. It looks like bears were going to get trapped, but then again, overnight war broke out and it is what it is. Okay, but at the end of the day, we still had technicals. I told you guys in yesterday's video, we really don't know what's going to happen from here. We don't. We have to kind of just wait and see what's going to happen. But straight up, okay, they've made a decision. It's going to be down. Okay, like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now we're at least coming down to 521.95 in my personal opinion. Why? That's going to be right around the daily 21. So that's the mean reversion over here on the daily time frame. And if you zoom out to the weekly time frame, if that does not hold, follow the yellow brick road. Okay, if that does not hold, I think we're probably going to test the 200 DMA over here on QQ finally. I think we're probably going to test the weekly 21. And if buyers step in there, that's anyone's guess. I'm going to guess they are. Okay. No financial advice will be given here on this channel, but I'll gladly, read these charts for you guys every day. We put out a Monday through Thursday video, and then we have the weekly update every weekend to get you prepared. I give you my trade ideas in that going into the upcoming week, and we go over, what we're expecting and the levels we're watching over here on the indices. If you are new, just, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Welcome to the team. Welcome aboard. But, as of current price action, guys, if we get this bounce, expect sellers. Okay, on the upside, we have 527.92, 530.84, and 533.82, which is right around yesterday's close. I don't think we're getting up to yesterday's close. I think it makes absolutely no sense off this news. If you do get a dead cat bounce at most, I think 530.84 incoming. Okay, you did end up rejecting the golden pocket yesterday, right here. Okay, right here. That's why it's a tool I think you definitely should be using. If you're not using, really draw the whole move right from there to there. You retraced to the golden pocket and you sold off of that bad boy right off of 533.82 resistance as well. And yeah, you dumped it overnight. Okay, I think we're very likely going lower. So on the downside, we have 525.97 and at 521.95. You lose 525.97, guys, we're going to be playing it down to 521.95. Now, I personally don't think we're going to get buyer step in there. I'm sorry. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think we are going to have a full-on, reset over here on the 4-hour RSI. I think it's getting oversold, and we can get a larger sell going here, a larger mean reversion on the weekly time frame. Okay, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens at 521.95. Just because I think it's going to break doesn't mean it's going to break. Okay, but you do have this rising wedge break and retest going on yesterday. Perfect golden pocket test, and then you dumped it overnight. So we're going to assume you're going to keep going lower. Underneath 521.95, we have 515.97. I don't think we're getting all the way down here today. I think the most probable scenario is we don't fill that gap. We get a little, almost there, okay? And then we continue lower, okay? Like straight up, let's look at it this way. This would be a 2% move down. I think off of this news, that's justified. It is, even a bigger move is justified, but, is that going to happen? Maybe not, but VIX is spiking right now. It's up 16%. It gapped up 20% early this morning. But straight up, would this also be justified? Yeah. Okay, like this is a catalyst that makes the market extremely uncertain. We don't know what's happening. We all knew there was like technical setup over here for downside. I just, kind of thought they were going to continue trapping the bears with how you closed yesterday. And then the news hit, and I was like, I might as well just wait until tomorrow morning to put out a quick little video there, okay? So that's QQQ, guys. We're looking for further downside. If there's a dead cat bounce, sell the bounce. That is what we're thinking. But so far, this 15-minute RSI is deeply oversold, so I will not be surprised to see that reset before going lower. Coming over here to SPY. All right, well, we have a similar look over here. The gap is 599.52. No, it is not the closing price, but it is the bottom of yesterday's candlestick, and that is the gap in, where price is right now and where the next form of, structure is, the next area where there is price action, okay, and intraday hours. So that is what you're watching on the upside over here. I think it's more probable that SPY can hit this than QQQ can hit this. Why do I have these blue levels drawn out here? Because these are kind of your lines in the sand. If you come down here, right here, to 593.20, you're going to need to see buyers stepping in there, in between there and 591.05. If they start taking it underneath 589.08, the daily 21 is lost. Next target is going to become this 200 DMA. I can pretty much guarantee if you get down to 583.24, you're coming down here. So that's why I have the arrow going straight under there. So follow the yellow brick road. These are where you're expecting your reactions in between 593.20 and 589.08. You want to see buyers stepping in between, I'll just make it with the zone here. Right here, 591.05 up to 593.20. If you do not see buyers stepping in there and they lose 591.05, you're going to wait for the break underneath 589.08, and then you could take it down here to the 200 DMA. Obviously, first stop is 583.24, but then you'd have the 200 DMA. All right, so that's really how I think SPY and QQ are going to really play out here. I don't think you're going to get much of a gap fill there. I just don't think you're going to fill the gap. I think it's much more probable that we are going to see a continued move lower. I'm sorry, my internet over here is not working. We're going to go a little like that. We'll reload the page, see if that comes right back. Oh, look at that. Picture perfect. Okay. All right, but over here on VIX, guys, it is currently up 17%. I would not be surprised to see a bigger VIX spike today. The last time you did see a 20% VIX spike overnight, you did get a little of it back. You got down to only being up 16%, but then you closed out the day up 40%. I will not be surprised if that's going to be the case. I really will not. If you see a bounce over there on the indices and VIX stays elevated, guess what? It's probably getting ready to spike some more. All right, because there's usually an inverse correlation there, and if it's not there, then someone or the market as a whole is betting that yeah, VIX is going to spike further after that, which means the indices are going to be falling further after that. That is that. Okay, don't gotta complicate it. We'll run through the Mag 7 stocks over here, and then yeah, you get ready to trade the day. Over here on Amazon, you're already reverted back to the mean. You're at 208.81. That's why we marked it with a white level. This was going to be your mean reversion once we started selling over here. That's what I was saying. I think it's going to be hit. Then you started bouncing yesterday. It looked like you're probably going to bounce a little bit more, but what happened overnight? They dumped you. Okay. Underneath 208.81, you just have the 200 DMA over here at 203. Underneath there, you have 198.34. Meta, how are we looking over here on Meta? Well, you got another gap down. Okay, you had bulls step in over here in this little range, and they broke you down from the range. Well, the range consists of $16. You're down $7. Okay, $16 move brings you down here to like 670, 672. I think we're probably going to be coming down to 662, 67. That is why we marked it as a blue level over here. Blue or white levels on my chart, those are the important ones. Okay, the blue levels are normally your trigger levels, and then where you're going to look for the reactions, and then the white ones are, typically if I think a target will be hit, I'll make it white. All right, but over here are, key levels, we'll just say, are going to be those white levels. Okay, these blue ones, trigger levels. Well, guess what? You are probably going to come down here. We're going to see what happens here, and it's the same situation as what I was pointing out on the indices. If you don't hold there, all right, if you don't hold 662, 67, then we're probably going to have a larger mean reversion, and I'd imagine you come all the way back down here, okay, right here to the weekly 21. Maybe you undercut it and come to the 200 DMA. We'll have to see how this goes, but I definitely do want to say I think the dip gets bought in the end. This is not a surprise over here. It's surprised with how yesterday closed out, to me at least, with, just the overnight news over there. But at the end of the day, we had QQ looking like this. So, there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's, just how you treated it. It is you as a trader that, set yourself up for this. If you're sitting in longs overnight, there's nothing you can really do about it. Then take note of it, take note of the environment you're in, and do better. Okay. In reality, I'm just going to be taking some losses over here on this little dead cat bounce this morning. Okay, because I do think we are going to be getting further downside, and I'd rather be in cash over there. I think I'm probably going to let my puts ride, my QQ puts, because I do think they're probably going to get into the money next week. And maybe I'll take profit on their next Friday's expiration. So maybe I'll be taking profits on those, and then I will, I will probably re-enter puts, maybe with the June 27th expiration. Probably still going to be the 520 expiration strike over there. Okay. But that's really how I'm going to be playing this, guys. I am gonna do my best. I'm gonna play some downside on options, but real talk, I'm just gonna do my best to just be trading futures, bias to the downside over here over the next few trading sessions. And guys, if they close this out, like this, you've killed the weekly candle. We're probably coming lower the next week. So like, I'm serious. You could buy the dip, but do it at your own risk, because I'm telling you right now, we're probably not going to just bounce right back from this. This is news that can bring us lower. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. All right, so we went over Amazon, we went over Meta. Well, Apple, guys, you have this range. Okay, this range is about a $10 range. You're breaking down from it. Okay, I imagine you're getting all the way down here to 189.81. Okay, I know, anybody long on Apple doesn't want to hear that, but in reality, you're getting really tight. You're getting ready for a big move. And the market has kind of just spoken that the big move is going to be to the downside, at least in the short term. Okay, so underneath 196.78, you target 193.25, and then you target 189.81 after that. If you get down here, that's anybody's guess. I'm really not sure how deep this dip is going to dip, but I will tell you, after today, I do think there's going to be further downside. Coming over here to Tesla, well, you fell off the face of the earth. It was looking really nice, but as you see, you're all the way back down here at 310. They did just make some upgrades to their cars. They released them this morning. I guess it's 410 miles of range. That's cool. Okay. The market doesn't give a shit. Pardon my French. The market doesn't care. The market wants to see this thing test the 200 DMA around 307.04 again. That is probably going to be the case. All right. So that's Tesla. GOOG. Well, this is the error we put on in our last video over here when you started printing this candlestick coming into yesterday. And yeah, we're now down at the 200 DMA, and I'm going to just tell you my straight up opinion, guys. I don't think it's going to hold. All right. I don't think you're going to get this upward part of the arrow here. I think it's going to look more like this. You're probably going to get a little dead cat bounce from here this morning, and then I think you come lower. You could even just not get a dead cat bounce and could just fade right through it, and then you're targeting 168.24. On the weekly time frame, that is where you have the weekly 21 EMA. But at that point, the cloud is probably going to flip back to bearish. And again, if you close out bearishly this week, I imagine you're going lower next week. And that's that. I told you guys at the beginning of the video, VIX, it's set up over here. If they close it out with this spike, yeah, we're probably getting a further spike at least next week, if not the next 1 to 2 weeks. So just be ready. I don't want anybody to get wrecked over this. And, at the end of the day, we're all individual market participants. There's nothing I can really do to, help you in that regard. Like, you have to pull your own triggers. I could just give you the information which you can, do your best to make money off of / avoid the risk over here of what we're just talking about. I'm going to point out there is one stock that I think is looking stronger than the rest over here at the end of the video, and that's the only stock I really want longs on, or at least I'm watching them on. So there's going to be that at the end of the video. But, as far as all these Mag 7 stocks, guys, everything looks like it's going to be faded, okay? Nvidia's weekly candle, it is now going to shift into a bearish shooting start style candlestick. You had this range going on here that's between 140, 150, and 145. That is $3.50. You break 140, 150, and you're probably coming down here to 137.40. We're going to make that the next blue level there, okay, because this is the absolute worst bear case scenario right here. I do think you get buyers at the end of the day down here because, again, things just kind of pushed almost back up to all-time highs. It makes no sense that we're not going to push right back up and test those all-time highs. But underneath 137.40, you're going to target the 200 DMA all the way down here. What's also going to be right next to the 200 DMA at 129.08? Well, first of all, you have 129.08 support, but you also have the weekly 21. That's your mean reversion over here on the weekly time frame. It happens quite often. It can take, months apart for that to actually happen, but we're now getting it, and it's going to provide a big buying opportunity. Guys, every war that's broken out, any war threat that's broken out over the past 2 to 3 years, I have personally seen the market get bought up and make new highs after. All right. Yes, it took a few weeks. Yes, once these threats started happening, you probably had 1 to 3 weeks of selling every single time. But at the end of the day, it provided a big buying opportunity. If you were just patient enough to wait for it, there's going to be that. If you are on this channel, if you're watching these videos, I will let you know when that happens. Okay, I will let you know. But for the time being, I do think it's best on this dead cat bounce this morning. If we get it, take the losses on the longs and just sit on your hands, because I do think we're going to get some more downside. I could be completely wrong, but I'm telling you for a fact how VIX is set up and how the indices are set up and how, this war news here, it's probably going to bring more downside. Now, if Donald Trump comes in and starts threatening over, like if nukes start coming into play, the poly market is thinking there's a high probability that nukes are going to come play. If Donald Trump is going to step in over here and put his hand in the mix there and start making threats and stuff like that, try and control the situation. Maybe he does control the situation, but let's look at it this way. The market is going to be uncertain as hell. All right, the U.S. is now involved in World War III if that becomes the case, and it's probably not going to be the best thing for a few weeks. Okay, I think the market is probably going to forget about, well, not forget about it, but they're gonna shrug it off within we're going to say 1 to 2 months. We're going to be back up at highs. We're going to make new all-time highs over there in SPY and QQ, but I do not think this is something that's just going to bounce right back. I could be completely wrong. All right, could be wrong. I'm just telling you where the odds are favoring, and that's what I like to do in these videos, because that, as traders, that is all we're trying to do. We align the odds in our favor, and I'm telling you, things just completely shifted overnight. So there's that. The last one over here is going to be Microsoft, and Microsoft is actually gapping down to yesterday's low. Well, this thing is not even close to its mean reversion yet here on the daily time frame. So you are going to be targeting over here 462.52. This is something that on bounces, you could take puts on this if you'd really like to. I'm just going to say it's been the strongest stock. Okay, but if it does end up taking out 468.35 today, it has a bearish shooting star candlestick with a nice upper wick stemming from slightly new all-time highs. We're looking to buy that dip, baby. But yeah, you're probably at least coming down to 462.52. If not, you're breaking that, and then you are probably going to be coming all the way down here to 448.38, which that is going to be more of mean reversion over here on the weekly time frame. You could even back test this trend line that it broke out from, that downtrend. Okay, so those are the Mag 7 stocks, guys. That's what I have for you. I personally, I took most of the profits over here on SMR yesterday. I left the next Friday's calls. I didn't think we were going to have this terrible catalyst overnight. I really did not. I got that going. I got Hood over here, got PayPal. All right, some other things, Walmart, but Walmart, I'm just letting it do its thing. Bros, I was going to see how things are looking over there. I was thinking you had a chance of holding the daily 21. Then this news broke out, and now I don't think that's going to be the case. I think you're going to get a larger pullback. So, I really do think it's the best course of action today, guys. Yeah, get a dead cat bounce, take the loss on calls. I know, but I'm telling you, as traders, you are going to align. If you want to win, you are going to align things. All right, your positions, your bias, your trading with the probabilities, and the probabilities suggest after that they're going to kill these weekly candlesticks, and we probably do get a multi-week pullback over here, and we could buy Hood over here sub $60. Okay, so there's that. Until the news came out, yeah, this thing was probably going to take out 77.80 and probably push all-time highs 85 next week. That is what I was thinking. That's not the case anymore. It's just not. All right, you did start breaking down. Yes, you started seeing buyers over here in the pre-market, but guess what? It's probably not going to mean much, okay? All right, guys, so as far as the one stock that I personally like over here, it's going to be VST. All right, I was actually planning on taking Oxy calls yesterday. Now I feel like a really big pussy for not doing so. I put on Hood yesterday instead of Oxy over here. But yeah, because it just looked really nice over here. I just saw you at the low of day, and I was like, oh no, it could pull back over here. It could pull back over here to 43.22. It did not do that. It spiked massively overnight. Why? Because well, the news broke out, and also this thing decided to go like 10% overnight over here. Okay, the highs was up 13%. You're starting to fade that right now. But oil companies, guys, because of this, they could start popping off over here. They could, we could see ZOM just continuing grinding higher over here. It is a big gap up over here. VIX did get a big gap up over here. And we're going to see if, it starts getting bought up once you test over here, 2044 down to 1960, which is going to be right at the 200. So yeah, expect further upside over here on VIX, guys. The daily EMA cloud over here is about to cross. And yeah, when that happens, we typically do get more of a bounce over here, okay? And at a minimum, we get this crap. And yeah, it's not something, it's not conclusive. It's not a, we're just going to say it's not a great environment for taking longs until that clears itself up. All right. MCD, I'm not sure how this is going to be behaving. We're consolidating right here. Daily daily RSI was oversold over here. That's where you bottom out over here. All right, right off the 200 DMA here, same exact setup. This is one I put on your radar after we got this day. I said we're either going to shoot up from here or we are likely to range here and then shoot up from here in the end over the next 1 to 2 weeks. Honestly, this is the one stock I think could honestly just hold up. I think it could. It's not going to be affected by all this. Investors can leave, but this is kind of the discount area here that you wanted to get involved in it. And if it loses 200, I mean, it looks really bad. You can see, the weekly cloud over here is about to flip bearish, and you can start a further downfall. It's like you're over here, and you can start a further decline over here if this area doesn't hold. All right, guys, so that's what I have for you in today's video. I hope you guys made some money on the way up over here. I know current positions are definitely, long positions, no matter what you got, they're going to be underwater. But, I gave you plenty of setups over here to make some money on the way up over here. I definitely did. We had a bunch of bangers, and I hope that provides a really big cushion for you over here. At least I'm really happy that was the case for myself. And I hope for my Discord members they made some money on the way up there. Because guess what, guys? We probably are getting a bit more of a pullback here. APLD pulling right back to where it broke out from. That's something I'm paying attention to right now. Other than that, guys, I do think things are probably going to be cooling off no matter what. PLTR, we could see, isn't really getting all that big of a sell here. So, this is one that potentially could just come down here and start bouncing back up. This is something that, in the threat of war, it's probably not going to do too bad. Okay, the other one is going to be LMT. All right, we got LMT, we got MP. These things were popping off yesterday, and I imagine this thing is probably going to continue popping off. LMT, though, once this war news is all done with, it's going to come right back down. So keep that in mind. I personally wouldn't even be trading this. What the heck is this crap? Technical analysis is it's not really working on this thing. You've been ranging out. So I mean it's there. Okay, you could do TA on it, but let's look at it this way. It's not giving you any edge in either direction. And right above 494.20, the top of this range, guess what? You have the 200 DMA. So I really don't think it's worth it. If you can get above 509.55, you probably do push up here and have yourself a nice little time up to the 0.618 fib. But it's not really a ticker I wouldn't be messing with. I really wouldn't. Okay, I'm gonna be watching on this pullback over here, Oklo. All right, this is one that I think if one's gonna hold up better than the rest, I think Oklo can hold up better than the rest. Maybe get anywhere from 45 to $50 over here, and then get bought up there. We're watching SMR. Okay, this is the other nuclear stock that we're going to be paying attention to on this pullback. I'm not sure how much is going to sell over here, but I do think this thing is probably going to continue getting bought up after all is said and done. All right, with that being said, guys, I hope everybody has a lovely day, and I will catch you on the next one. If you do want to come trade with me, I will be live trading every day. I do give you trade ideas. I give you a focus list. I give you a game plan for 1 to 2 option trades every single day, as well as the game plan on SPY QQ, and then I execute on that with futures in the morning with you. All right, so that will be linked down below. Code Greece. I'm still in Greece, so until I'm out of here, I'm gonna just keep it at 40% off. All right, so if you want 40% off your first month, use code GREECE, code GREECE, and we're going to try and navigate this mess as best as we can over here. All right, but again, as traders, we put the probabilities in our favor. Okay, we trade in that direction, and I'm telling you right now, probabilities have completely shifted overnight, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'm going to take my approach that I just talked about. You don't have to do anything about that because no financial advice, but I do try and share it with how I'm executing on these markets in these videos for absolutely no cost to you. Okay, that being said, I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.